What's up? I'm architect Drew Paul Bell, and today what I want to talk about is this book here called Trust Me, I'm Lying. This book is by Ryan Holliday, and the reason why I think this is relevant is because this guy, so I'm doing these videos with a bunch of architect content creators, and we're making kind of a video every day, or pretty much every day. And I think that this point is relevant for those people, but it's also very relevant for architects, because as architects, if you're going to be building the world around us, you're a leader in the world around us. You have to be able to understand the world that we live in today. He was like the lead marketing guy for American Apparel by the age of like 26, I think it was. I don't know what age it was exactly, don't quote me on that. But he outlines kind of the media world that we're in today. And being a YouTuber, somebody who makes videos, I feel like I kind of have a peek behind the curtain. It's something that I think about a lot, something I'm paying attention to. And while I'm not a master at it, there's some things I see that a lot of other people don't. And a lot of it is outlined in this book here called Trust Me, I'm Lying. Some things that they did, and just I think that the best story to emphasize that represents the entire book is the story about when they were selling a book called I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell by Tucker Max. These are a collection of essays about kind of just stories of sex, drugs, and debauchery from Tucker Max when he was in law school. A lot of the stories are actually online already for free on his blog. They published a book, and I think it was actually the promotion of a movie, not the promotion of the book, but they were promoting the movie, I believe. And they didn't have much of a marketing budget, and one thing that they did was they bought ads for like boarded up construction sites in LA and New York, and then they themselves went and like vandalized it and wrote like womanizing pig, and then took pictures of it, then sent it to feminist blog posts, to feminist blogs, and said, glad to know LA hates this guy too. I heard that there's going to be a protest tomorrow at like 4 o'clock, and in time for the 5 o'clock news. Okay, so now they sent that out. Then they sent out notifications to the news channels to show up, and so then all these people are there to protest, and inevitably someone kind of takes the lead and leads these protests. It gets covered on the 5 o'clock news, and they get millions of dollars of free advertising during doing this type of thing. This is the type of stuff he outlines in the book, and while that sounds kind of funny, maybe, I think that depending on your views of things, I think that's pretty clever. But then they also outline stories where people have had like viral stories go off about themselves, and then their entire careers get destroyed. Obama, I think, fired somebody from his cabinet, and I forget the names and the exact situation, but like Obama like fired somebody based off of a video that came out that made someone look racist. But then upon further investigation, after it had blown up in the news, he acted quick. But actually, after further investigation, it turns out that it was taken out of context, and that's not, like, someone wasn't being racist, and that person did not deserve to be fired, and he had to reinstate them, which is like an I believe he reinstated things. I believe he reinstated them, I'm not sure. But it was a real embarrassing fiasco, kind of. He talks about the way that the media works, and the way that the media works is, listen, look, as architects, we complain that we're all overworked and underpaid. Well, bloggers are the same way. There's this perception that like if you write a blog post, you're going to be rolling in money. That's not the case. Michael Rosica, I'm good friends with him, and I know that he gets people asking to like write on his blog, or he's asked people to write on his blog, to contribute to his blog, thinking like, hey, I'm going to help this person, like they're going to be able to boost their resume, they're going to get exposure, and then they want to know, how much does it pay? How much are you going to pay me to write for your blog? It's like, dude, you don't make a lot of money writing on blogs, and that's just not how it works. And I've written for blogs for like Graphisoft, and I think I've been featured in a blog for it was I think it was the AIA or NCARB. I think it was the AIA, and like you don't get paid for that stuff. It's just not the way it works. You get paid. A lot of these blogs, especially if you look at the news blogs like CNN, like Huffington Post or whatever. A lot of these writers, like they're not getting paid a whole lot. They're expected to churn out like 5 stories a day, and then they're not getting paid based off of how good the writing is or how good the reporting is. They're getting paid based on how many clicks they get. Now, the reason why the system works that way is because that's how these companies make their money. They're selling advertising. They have enough eyes on their content that then they can have sidebar banner ads and like links in the page. So there's people who are selling products who say, hey, you guys have attention over there. We want to be, we want you to promote our products over there, and they'll pay to do that. That's how that business model works. So the system doesn't reward people for doing better quality content or better reporting. It rewards them for getting something that's going to get clicks. Ryan Holliday said in an interview that I saw on YouTube one time, something really chilling to me. He said that, whether something is accurate or not is completely secondary to if it's going to get views. He said if you're a writer and you're writing for one of these blogs and you have to churn out something quick, especially if some big news fiasco happens, you get it out fast, and even if it's inaccurate, you make an article today, and then tomorrow you get to issue a correction article. So now you've got 2 articles, whereas before you would have had 0. And had you waited longer, you wouldn't have been the one to publish it, someone else would have. It's this whole system that's churning out, you could call it lies. It's churning out just entertainment. It's trying to hijack your brain. And the reason why it works this way, the reason why, especially the news media today, right? It feels like everything's doom and gloom, the world's going to end. The reason why they do that is because that grabs your attention more. The reason why that grabs your attention more is because there's a part of your brain called the amygdala. That's like down at like the root, kind of by the brainstem. That is the part of your brain where like lizards have the same type of stuff in their brain. Seth Godin calls it the lizard brain. By the way, if you're not familiar with the breakdown of the brain, there's basically 3 layers to it. You got the hind brain, the midbrain, and then you got the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is where we as human beings do all of our complex thinking, right? That's our higher level abstract thinking. We can think about the future and the past and time and all that stuff. We can create symphonies and architecture and music and whatever. And then there's the midbrain. The midbrain is where we have like emotions. Dogs have a midbrain. They have emotions. You can tell that like they love you and that they're excited or that they're sad, and they have the capacity to feel those types of things. And then there's like the hind brain. The hind brain regulates basically just bodily functions. The amygdala in particular, it handles like it regulates hunger, thirst, body temperature. I think it does fear. It is fear and sexual drive. That's what it regulates. And because of its positioning within the brain, it can basically hijack the other higher order levels of the brain. So if you're scared for your life, you're not going to be writing some major symphony. You're not going to be creating some amazing piece of architecture. You can't access that kind of altruistic, self-actualizing type of goals of the prefrontal cortex. That's not going to happen. So it hijacks that type of brain. That part of your brain hijacks the rest of your brain. And marketers have figured this out. Like, I don't like saying it that way. I think that it's that the system has continued to reward people who publish articles that are scary, because that makes you pay attention. You want to know what's going on. I heard an expression one time. They say that nobody stares out into the open sky, but everybody rushes to stare at the hurricane. So people want to see the chaos, because they're afraid of it, right? You got to focus on that thing that you're worried about, and probably we've evolved to do that. We've definitely evolved to do that, and you have to understand the system of publishing blogs, of publishing content online. When the system is set up to reward clicks, then it's going to continue growing in that way to get more clicks. So to look at some of these articles and to just assume that like the clickbait article title is accurate, or that the projections of doom and gloom are true, I don't think does proper justice to the actual information that's lying behind that stuff. One of the articles, one of the stories that he profiled in the book, Trust Me, I'm Lying, was about American Apparel. It was one of the American Apparel things. Their whole thing was that they used like locally made clothing rather than like exporting from stuff outside the country. They had this one company where they were selling their nail polish, And so this nail polish had been like a family-run business for decades. And it was a small kind of mom and pop shop type of thing, but it wasn't some big huge thing, but they partnered with American Apparel to be in their stores. There was a batch of nail polish of a particular color that I think, like, when it was underneath the display lights, it would explode. It would kind of pop, it would crack. Like there was something wrong with the glass. There was a bad batch of the glass containers that held this nail polish. And now American Apparel, they had used shady types of ways of getting advertising before. I think that they had ads with like porn stars not wearing any clothes, and then it's like, oh, this is a clothing company, and then they don't even have any clothes on in the ads, and so everybody starts posting articles about that. That gets them tons of traffic. So they had built in these mechanisms to like get tons of traffic and go viral, and sometimes it was like scandalous stuff, but American Apparel is the type of company that's big enough that they can handle bad press, right? They say all press is good press. American Apparel was big enough that that was true, but this little mom and pop shop who was handling like the nail polish, they couldn't handle it when they start publishing articles saying nail polish explodes, are you at risk? They come up with these clickbait titles and make it sound like it's this terrible thing. In reality, it's the kind of thing that happens, and it wasn't exploding, it was just cracking underneath the lights, but they didn't get the whole story, and that made that company go out of business. They couldn't handle that. I bring this up, I bring a lot of this stuff up because I feel like I'm surprised that whenever I talk with people about this, it's like they don't know. They haven't heard about this stuff before. And as somebody who kind of has one foot in the media world with YouTube, and somebody who I've studied it because it's interesting to me, I'm surprised how many people don't know this stuff, and they just take every article at face value, and they pretend like it's all true. And they buy into this doom and gloom stuff, and they don't see that some people are kind of pulling on their puppet strings here. There's one more story from it that I think was really interesting. The way he outlined it made a lot of sense. He said that it used to be that we would like read newspapers, and we would read newspapers, and basically if you felt like you were getting the wrong information, well, first of all, you'd find out you were getting the wrong information from someone else if it was being published in another newspaper. What the newspapers would do is if they published something that was inaccurate, what they would then have to do is they would publish like a correction. And if you subscribe to this newspaper and you get all kinds of corrections every time you read the newspaper, you can tell that like they're not telling you the truth. You're going to cancel your subscription and you're not going to buy it anymore. But now, we're not operating off of that type of model. Now what's funny is this transition had happened once a long time ago. He said that it used to be the same thing with newspapers, right? Newspapers were on a subscription based, but then somewhere along the way somebody switched up the game, and they started having people stand on the street corner and shout out titles and selling newspapers on the street corner. So that they would be like, extra, read all about it, shots fired on Fort Sumter's beginning of Civil War. And they said that like literally it was like old school version of clickbait titles. And there were literally people who went months thinking that the Civil War hadn't started yet because they were so skeptical of the clickbait titles that were happening on these street corner sales. So what that did was that changed the game. Now all of a sudden you're not buying a newspaper based off of the subscription idea, you're buying the newspaper based off of the title. I can call it clickbait title as an analogy, but it wasn't clickbait obviously because it was something else. But kind of these scandalous titles that in these overinflated titles anyway, that's what they were buying it for. And so then that changed things, and then somewhere along the way it got so corrupt that it didn't work anymore, and then people kind of went back to the subscription-based service. So ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, even in the book, he doesn't fully like blame the people who are out here trying to earn a living wage, right? These writers are out here trying to make something work, and they got family, they got to put food on their table. Like I understand that. In a way, it's sort of like, how do you set up the system so that it actually like works out good for people in the end, rather than setting up a system that promotes kind of the spread of half-truths and lies. And he says that he doesn't have a solution for that. The way of thinking about this like a system, I think, makes a lot of sense to me. It's something that's real interesting. If you as an architect are not a little bit alert and aware of this type of system, and you just fall for the whims of every bit of information that comes in, and you don't know how to think critically about it, I don't think that you are in a position to be an architect, or at least not a leader of society. So that's why I present this video to you guys. I know that like media and what makes clickbait articles, the way it works, isn't exactly how to succeed in architecture school. I do think it's important on being aware of how things work in the world. So if you want to check out the book is called Trust Me, I'm Lying. If you finish it, let me know how it goes. It's a fascinating book. And also Ryan Holliday is a great thinker. He's got several other books that I highly recommend. So don't forget to check those out as well. I hope that this video helps. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time.